Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of There's Something Wrong with Mayo, a filmmaking journey. What is it? Is that it? Filmmaking something. Um, my name is Miguel Ortega, and this is my co-host Tran.
Hello.
Yeah, we're still because the name changed so many times in the beginning. Filmmaking Production Diary. There you go. So we're doing the breakdown of an animated film in Unreal Engine. Um, yeah, we're basically vlogging every step of the way. We did a film last year called The Voice in the Hollow, and this year we are doing another one. So the story we're doing is called There's Something Wrong with Mayo, and this year is Mayo. Let me make him full screen for a second. Let's see who's here on the chat. For the first time in ages, I'm not late. You're not late because we're late this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're late. Um, let's see. Hey guys, pot friend. Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know that's what that meant as the avatars for that. So yeah, how's everybody doing? So we're doing this. This is Little Mayo, and this is just some tests that we did. Let me start from the beginning here.
It's probably going to play back a little bit choppy.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, it's not so bad.
Why is this guy not playing? Let me see what's going on with him. Um, Mayo. There we go. That should be it. There we go. Look at that. He looks so cool. So this is him with his freaked out face. This is him with his happy face.
Yeah, he was built with the upside down frown.
This is his default face.
And we were not sure how he's going to look if he's smiling. So we just did a test with just a change in expression. But we have someone working on that. His name is Shraga, and he's like really amazing.
I can't hear you very well.
You can't hear me?
No.
At all?
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, our friend Shraga is doing the blend shapes. He does. He's the face lead at Blur, so he's doing all the blend shapes for that.
They're so cute and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. So there's something wrong with Mayo.
And Mayo's the orange guy.
Yeah. So he's a little weird. He's a little crazy, possibly. And then his best friend is Cot, who is a mage, but he has a stutter, so he's not very good at his incantations. So it's the two of them taking on the evil moths that want to eat them because, as you can see, or maybe you can't see, they're made out of fabric entirely.
Yeah.
So
I think you can kind of tell a little bit with Mayo.
You can, yeah.
Like his face looks like some kind of cloth. So, yeah.
So you can see everything about this guy is round. Literally, he's an emoji face with ping pongs on his head. And then this guy is our little troublemaker. I like how the buttons turn a little bit there with the cape.
Yeah. They sim pretty well. I noticed that too. I was like, oh, look, it didn't get stuck. Because it's easy for things to get stuck in other things, but they're simming the buttons pretty well.
So these have no facial expressions yet. So this one we just put like a smile on them because we were really concerned about how extreme this expression is here. We're like, how does this guy even look when he doesn't have this Beaker face, Beaker from the Muppets? Like his mouth looks like Beaker, and we didn't realize it until after we did it. We were like, oh, his mouth looks like Beaker. Of course, that's influence, but then we didn't know how to.
Yeah, because Beaker.
It never changes. It just goes up and down.
He doesn't smile or anything like that. So
Tran cranked out this smile. You did a bunch of them, and finally, when I saw this one, I was like, "Oh man, that looks good."
There were a lot of bad ones.
Yeah.
So that one seems simple, but there were some really weird ones. So That one worked for us. And the other thing that we did here is this is run with Path Tracer. So we did do another render that was done with Lumen, which is what our first short was done in. So we use Lumen, which is real time completely. And Path Tracer is not completely real time, or technically not, but it's really, really, really fast.
It feels really tangible. The render quality on this guy, it feels really nice.
Yes.
What we want to do is we want to buy a little dog toy, and every time he steps, he goes.
Well, you should hide our face when you say that, because you can't picture that.
Yeah, let me hide my face. There you go. You want to make the sounds, Tran?
No, you do it.
They would, basically, the idea is that they would have little squeaky sounds as they run around.
Yeah. I think that would be pretty cute. So we want these guys to feel little and cute. That's the goal. So that when you see the enemies, I don't know, there'd be this huge disparity between the moths and them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, thank you. And yeah, you already know what's coming. So that's what we have so far, which was good. We got to test a lot of things. We got hair in there. I came up with 2 different ways to deal with the hair. And again, we got Path Tracer working, and I'm super thrilled with the result of the Path Tracer. It to me looks like, what I would expect that I could get in some renderer like Arnold or V-Ray, but it's way, way faster. So I know. Let's see.
Look at this awesome little punk rock glove. It's so great.
Is everything done in the engine, color grading, post-processing, or setting frames to send an app before passing it to Premiere?
No, all the color correction is done in Premiere. I can show you here. So if I turn all this off, this is the raw. This is the raw render. You can see it's really, really buttery. It looks really good.
Yeah,
and we're probably not going to go this strong on the post process, by the way. We just put it in there for now. We are going to add grain, like heavy grain, but this Voice in the Hollow was very much inspired by 60s and 70s Westerns. This is going to be much more inspired by Jim Henson movies from the 80s. So there's still a grain structure to it, but not as strong. So let's look at what we added. We added a grain, which is against white. Then we added a frame. You can barely see that one. And then we added this one, which is very strong. This is like straight up grindhouse. Just messed up, bleached, destroyed 16 millimeter. But it works. You keep that very, very low, and it works really nice.
Yeah, we always like degrade our images. So I'm really like pleased with the render quality. It's really buttery. COT takes 2 minutes a frame to render. And then again, it's using the Path Tracer.
Yeah.
And then if we were rendering that, with our previous, like V-Ray or Arnold or something, it would not be 2 minutes a frame. I really think it would be several hours a frame. And again, just getting 2 minutes. So, and there's like no flickering or anything like that. So for any of us have experience when you're rendering and you're doing a sequence, or you do like one still frame and it looks really good, and then you just do, 20 frames or something after that, and they're all flickering, and then they don't work together. This one here doesn't have any kind of denoiser. I just kicked it off, and it just was so easy. Normally, I spend quite a bit of time trying to optimize the render. Like, say if I was using, say something like V-Ray, trying to optimize it and avoid optimizing by lower, like lowering the times of the render and then trying to make it stick so that you're not having like this crazy noise from one frame to another.
Give me 1 second.
How long has it been set up in UE5? I mean, lighting or scene setup. Not that long. I don't know what that means. The lighting was really, really simple. That's the other thing I like about it too in the path tracer. So like with Lumen, it was difficult lighting it. I had to change the lighting a lot in the Lumen shot. This one is just very few lights. I have an HDR, well, yeah, an HDR and then one directional light, and that's it. I don't have anything else. I don't have any fill lights or any of that stuff. Whereas in Lumen, I was putting in a lot of like fill lighting and trying to fake like the bounce. And this one is just, you don't have to try that hard. It's super easy to light it again.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's these guys. These things made me super happy to see them come together, especially this guy, because was not sure
Yeah,
he
so
was
this
going to
is
work as well.
this is 2 minutes at 1080 using 3090. Yeah, I have 3090. We're not going to have a lot of glass, and we're not going to have a lot of hair. So
We're going to have a lot of crystals.
yes, but I don't want them to be. We're not going to have a lot of shots with crystals where they're going to have refractive materials. We'll have some, but like for most of it, it's just going to be kind of still, again, we're going to try to reuse Megascan environments and then using cloth. So that will keep it down. I am like wary, like here, what you're saying. That's because you don't have too many glass typologies. I am wary about that because that would just kill your render time. And I don't think we need, like, it's kind of the opposite. It's all cloth and not really a glass aesthetic.
Look at those weird ears. I like it. So anyway, so that's that on this guy. Does anybody have any questions on these little dudes before we move on? If not, let's keep going. So that's that, and then we also have the. Let me open something up. So we have to do. Open this. All the blend shapes for these guys. So
This was done by Chris
Bostjatnik,
Bostjatnik.
who will be a guest next week.
And then again, our friend Shraga is doing Mayo.
Look at that little. I like this one a lot. He's missing his bottom teeth there.
Yeah, so I didn't make the bottom teeth because I didn't even know what he's going to look like when he opens his mouth because we just did it closed.
Hear this. I love this shape. Like Chris really got the asymmetry that we wanted on these guys.
Yeah, Chris is like really good. Yeah, the lip curling.
So cute.
And how many shapes is this?
I think it's 52. This little guy makes me laugh.
He looks very mousy.
Yeah. I actually really like how he looks with his eyes really open like that. I think that's great. So these shapes are not final. He's going to have them done by next week. That's why, like, you can see, like, there's interpenetration on the blinks. That's because you need multiple in between shapes for stuff like that. So eyes look up, eyes look down, or eyes look to the sides. Eyes look in. That's great. This one's pretty cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. These are the shapes. What were some unexpected challenges that came up during the project? Well, they're still coming up. The biggest challenge so far, our biggest challenge always is the fact that we're undersized. There's, it's
Biggest
Tran and
challenge
I,
that we're
and
small.
then our
So-
friends that help us, but we move at a slow pace because our friends that are helping us, we're not paying them to help us. We do pay them at the end, but
not what they're worth.
not what they're worth.
Yeah.
So we can't be like faster. So things take a long time.
What they're doing for us is a big favor.
Yeah.
Because they're clearly, you can see they really know what they're doing. They have a lot of experience and they're super good artists. So, and we really want their help. So,
And they're super senior. It's not like they need more portfolio pieces. Shraga did.
Yeah, they don't need us. We need them.
Shraga did most of the really good faces on Love, Death, Robots. And then he's the supervisor at Blur for the faces. And then Chris is a senior artist at Blizzard. So it's not like they need to work on this indie film. It's just because they like what we're doing and they're awesome.
Yeah.
So
so we're the ones that are lucky to have them.
Yeah.
But that being said, it is part of the process. So it makes it take longer to get done, and you move slower because you don't have so many hands on it.
Yeah. And then on this side, this thing is being retopologized still. So this is the creature that they're going to get attacked by. So these are the evil moths. So I've been in retopology hell all week.
How dense is all that? What's the poly count?
It's dense.
Well, it can't be helped.
It can't be helped. It's either looks like a video game or it's heavy.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is based on how this guy's built, like you could export out half the limbs in one alembic and the other half in another alembic if you needed to.
Oh, you mean like break it into pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we looked at some auto retopologizing tools, and there's a really good one that I started using called Quad Remesher to help. The problem is these spikes never turn out right. So it's almost more of a pain in the ass because even though it'll retopologize this part here, if you have to do every single one of these spikes manually, it just takes a very long time.
That's the part that's a long time.
That's the part that's a long time. Yeah. So, but just moving this thing along, I think I have this part here that I'm working on now. So getting the retopologizing on that. And again, we can't use displacements. So we're trying to get everything in the geometry. So you can see all the spikes are actually geo. So fun times.
Fun times. I'm really liking the design. Looks like a mosquito and an ant. Oh, it's a moth. It's missing its wings.
Yeah, it's missing the wings.
Thanks for liking the design, though. And it's not working well with Path Tracer. It seems to be totally fine. There's a couple of things you have to enable and input in the command.
Yeah, so this guy's going to have fur, and I think that's going to help him look more like a moth. But it definitely does not just look like a a generic moth. It looks like it does have an ant, it does have a mosquito, it does have a little bit of everything. And I told Sadan just to do whatever the hell he wants to do, just make it look as gnarly
Evil.
as
Yeah.
possible. And that's the thing when we reach out to artists to help us out, um, like David who did our poster and Sadan, you want to cast these guys for the job, right? And then once you find the guy that has the aesthetic you like, don't over art direct them and then turn them into what they're not, because then what's the point?
Yeah, you gotta let them do their thing, like what
Yeah.
they're really good at.
And we know that Sadan does some evil shit, so that's we let
Yeah.
him do evil shit. So, but yeah, so that's what I've been working on. So getting all this stuff retopoed. I'm truly at the end of my wits with this thing. I'm ready to cry. So
Let's see the question. Do you use any blueprint function libraries, scripting in the editor, or just manually building sequencer scenes? And that's it. I think we just kind of do it, right? Manually. You mean for the shots? Our stuff is pretty simple.
yeah, our stuff is surprisingly simple.
Yeah, we work like I work like I try to work as simple as I can because I can't handle something if it becomes too complex. Like it's too many steps for me. Like I'm a simple-minded person, so everything we do is just very very simplified into as few number of stages I can get in.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Do you want to show any stuff, Tran?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you guys.
So let me share my screen. How do you reset the screen stuff?
Press the
Oh, like that. Okay. Let's see. Some questions here. Usually clients that work on their baby part tend to control to death the artist and end up running away. Yeah, that's the thing. Like we also know that they're gonna run away if you micromanage your artist, right? Like it's kind of one of those things that we don't want to do that. We again, like what Miguel said, like you're getting someone who's really really good at what they do. If I try to like micromanage them, it's probably going to look worse, and it's not going to be the best that they could make. And we also know like they're helping us out by taking on this stuff. See, your stuff is awesome. Thank you. Well, our people are awesome. The ones that are helping us. And some other comments. Seeing some interviews, I really see two types of directors: the ones that when possible gives some creativity artists, and the ones that accomplish the vision no matter what. I think that's a balance, right? Like, I don't like personally. I hate the experience of if it's not working, trying to force someone,
it. Yeah.
because it's really miserable. It's miserable for the artist. It's also miserable for me, and it makes me feel bad. So we're very careful, making sure like this person can just do things on their own, and then we're not gonna tamper or get in their way. So we think about that a lot when we bring people in. Like, can they just do their own thing by themselves?
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I'll show here are a couple of things. I want to cover how I did some of the hair, and how I got it into, well, maybe not too much the hair because that could take up the whole time. Maybe show how I got the hair inside of Unreal, and a couple different ways I tried to stick it onto the character. And then some of like the path tracer stuff that I dealt with. So here I basically have two grooms. And again, I tried to keep it very simple. This first one here.
He looks so creepy with that hair like that.
This first one here is like the main hair. Right. And then the second one that I have up here is the baby hair. So you can see what it looks like without it. I'm using Xgen because it's free. It just comes with Maya. Xgen, there's two types. There's IGS and Legacy or Core. They're called either one. I'm using the Legacy or Core one because I'm comfortable with that one. As far as like the hair groom here, it's pretty simple. It's almost like very mechanical. I basically just laid the hair out and had the strand curl back. And when I'm doing this stuff, and I know it's not a very complicated groom, the one thing I just try to do is avoid interpenetrating hairs, right? Because that's usually makes something look pretty bad. So it didn't take long to lay this out. Let's hide this. And then these are the modifiers I use. I'll turn them off so you can see what they look like. Straight. So it just looks like this. Kind of looks like almost like one polygon. The other thing I also do is I set up a light inside Maya so I can see what it might look like once it's lit, because this is doesn't tell you a lot of information. So I just have a simple light like this. That way I can see the strands.
And that's with depth map shadows, right?
Yeah. So I have a key light or fill light, rim light, and they're just spotlights. So they're just regular Maya spotlights. And they have depth map shadows on, and I just turn on shadows in the viewport. Otherwise, there will be no shadows. And again, it's not actually any real lighting. It just allows me to see my process. So I place my first clump here. And the one thing I try to do with the clumping is just to break up the hair shape. So in your clump modifier, you can put some noise.
Slight resemblance to Kim Jong-un.
So,
Don't say that. That's horrible. His hair there definitely looks like it, though, for sure. That's funny.
let me show you what it looks like. Hold on. I just broke this. Well, you can see what it looks like again without it, right? And then my second one, which are smaller clumps, which break up the hair even some more. So you can see it here. First clump, second clump. And the way I approach clumping is just like kind of like sculpturally, when you're sculpting, you go for your large forms, medium forms, and small forms. So I do the same thing. And then my third clump, which has the smallest clump. So right now he looks really like slick backed hair. It looks really wet because it's super clumpy. But when I start adding noise, that usually softens it and opens it up. I put a little bit of coil just so it broke it up. And then I do multiple passes of noise on the hair. And just some more noise. So now his hair looks like what we're going for. And add more noise to the roots. So, this is how it's going to look lit, although it's kind of hard to see it in the renders that we did. And then here I have the baby hair so that
That's what makes it.
Yeah, the baby hair is really easy. It's super easy to do. Sometimes people don't do it.
That makes it to me. When I
It
see
does
that,
make-
I'm like, oh, that looks natural.
And they just follow the main groom, and they're really wild.
That's what my hair looks like all the time.
And if I show you what this looks like without any modifiers, the hair just looks like that. Let's hide the main one. Right. And then I just clump it, give it some noise so it's got some breakup. Secondary clump, same thing. Give it a cut so that the hair is not all the same length. And then again, open up with some noise so it looks more wispy. And then that's what I have here. Now, as far as how I take this into Unreal, there's a couple of steps that you have to do. I did mention this before, but I'll do it again. I don't think I was very thorough. I'm just going to save this because I might like really break something, and I really don't want to do that. So just give me a second.
Yeah, make a copy.
Now, if I don't know if anyone uses Xgen that's watching, but if you are, here's some good tips. So if you're using if you use IGS and you save your Maya versions, all your hair is saved in the Maya file. If you're using Core, which is what I'm using, or Legacy, what it does is it saves in a separate folder. So there's a folder which might be hard to see. It's called Xgen, and Maya will automatically make it, and you'll get your collection. Let's go back here, which is what they're called. In that one collection, whatever you do to it is saving over and over again. So you're not getting any versions of your Xgen. So what I do is I usually take the folder and I just copy it. That's the way you back it up. So it's very manual, because if this gets corrupt, you've lost a lot of work. I've tried using Xgen. Yeah, I know.
Tran is the only like legit Xgen fan left.
No, there's other people who still use it, right?
Hey, you get it to do awesome stuff.
Yeah, I know how to work around the bugs. So maybe we'll do like another the next stream. I'll just show you what I do, and I'll tell you I know when it's going to crash and what causes it to crash, and I know how to avoid it. And I understand why it's doing whatever it's doing. Okay, so what I'll do here, let's just say you get your groom, and again, there are some extra steps for mine because I'm using Core. If you're using IGS, you don't have to do this one step, which is to convert it to IGS. So under the generate, where you can find all your Xgen stuff, what I want to do is convert it to interactive groom, which again is the other system in Xgen. And I'll just hit convert. And then what I'll get in my outliner is I'll get these two new descriptions. And these are IGS. And you can see they just loaded up the default hair shader in here. Let's turn off the lighting so that this goes faster. Once I have this in IGS, all you want to do or need to do is just export the cache. Right? So I can select the two right here, go to cache, and export cache. And I just keep it at frame 0. So there's going to be no animation on it. Let's see here. Your stream is set to 1080p. Is the ability not to read text delivered? Let me look at my setting. It should be at 1080p. Oh, it actually fell down. There we are.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That helps us out. I assumed that I was just having streaming problems. There we are. So again, up here, IGS, convert, and again, export to cache. I'll just do 00 frames, and I'll hit export. And it's going to save as a Lembic file. Let's call it Mayo hair demo. And it's just going to write it out. And the cache is like 110 megabytes. So that's not too large. And then let's jump over to Unreal. So I have a couple ways of attaching the groom on. Let me just open up my content browser and I'll make a folder so I don't make a mess. I just call this demo. The first way is the most ideal way of dealing with hair. And that's where if you're bringing in a rig, right? So Let me just double check where I pulled this in from. Or let me just dig it up here. Let's see. Okay. So this is a file. This it's called Fast Run, and it's automatically rigged with Mixamo. So it's not going to be our final rig. Again, if you've been watching the stream, you know that we use that just to do tests. And in this rig, it's FBX format. So I'm just going to import this. And for my settings, I bring in, it's pretty standard. I actually don't really change anything. It will probably won't recognize materials. So we'll just keep it the way it is right now. Someone says, is it clear on your screen, Miguel? Did you just change it? No, I actually changed my resolution to.
Yeah, it looks super clear.
Yeah, so maybe it's just something over there. Everything is readable, but appears to have no sound. Can everyone else hear me?
I mean, unless people have been. Yeah, James says he can hear you fine.
Okay. Let's save all in case it crashes. All right, thanks. And let me just make a new map so I don't mess up my current map. Just load up that map. Okay. And then I'll just steal the sequence. That way I don't have to set the camera up. But I'll empty it out. Okay, so let's say I'm in my sequence here. Let's turn this to lit mode. And let me strip this all out. All right, so the first thing I always do, I'm gonna disrupt the whole hair thing for a second and just kind of show you some things that look weird. So we're looking through the sequencer. I just have it on my other screen. And there's a lot of black artifacts. That just comes from, you have to turn off shadows and double-sided geometry. So I usually type r.ray tracing .shadows and enable two-side geometry, set it to 0. You can also Google that. So that gets rid of that problem. The other problem here with Nanite, once you start using Path Tracer, on default, it will behave strangely. So I don't know if you can tell, Miguel, you can look. Let me just turn on Path Tracing. And let me just open up a pen.
The rocks issue?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this is going. Okay. So if you look at, say, the rock here, which is pretty round, and this one here, and this is kind of blurry, you might not see well. And the moment I turn on Path Tracer, my pen is like not working. Sorry, I think my computer might take a poop. I'm gonna kill the pen. It actually crashes my computer sometimes. Just use your eyes.
Epic Pen is not that epic, is it?
No, it's actually really heavy in the machine. So if you look at these are now very squarish, right? Like they lose a resolution. And then the rock back here, which I can't tell if you can see through the stream, but it's really blobby now.
I can see it.
Right? And if you go back to lit, you can see it has more details, and you can see how the rocks here or have more details. That's pretty easy fix. And you can find this on the ray tracing page, right? You just type r.raytracing, look for nanite, and under mode, set it to 1. And you can see now all the details come back. So we're all good now. If I path trace, okay. Those are the 2 things that I do first. Now let's come back here, jump back into this character. Let me save all. So I'll have this guy here, and that's a rig. And it came in with the animation. So the animation was baked in this situation. Let's bring in the hair.
Someone's got to make like the idiot's guide to Unreal. It just has like just the shit you need. You know what I mean? Like this command prompt does this, make sure you check this on, make sure just like a checklist, just one PDF that has everything you need. There's so much stuff.
Let's drop in the limbic. Yeah, there's a lot of little things. So my hair has settings of -90 on X, 0, and 180 on the rotation. The scale is -1, 1 and 1, and that's how it's going to come in correctly. And let me double check the hair's orientation is correct. You can tell when it's not because it will look like, rotate on the side. So this one worked out fine. And let's save all. Okay. Now, again, this method works great if it's a rig, right? So this is not, the character here is rigged. And it's not a limbic file. The hair is a limbic file. So the first thing I would do, or that's pretty important, it might be common sense for other people, but it might not be some common sense for some people like me. I have to be told things, or else I won't figure it out. But your hair and your rig need to be lined up, right? So if your hair that you bring in is misaligned, this is just not going to work. Let's delete that. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click. I'm going to create binding. This way it will bind the hair to the actual rig, because if you don't bind it, it's just going to run off without the hair. And here it's looking for a skeletal mesh. And I want to just attach it to that rig. So I'll type fast run. And there are 2 fast runs. Let me just rename this, so I don't mess up my other one, because I don't know which one's which. Okay, so let me attach it to my demo, and I just hit create. And now what that did is create a groom binding, and let's just save it. And what I want to do now is just stick it together in a blueprint. So I'm going to create a blueprint class, and it will be actor. And let's call this Mayo rig demo BP. Okay, and let's just open up the blueprint. And let me save all. Now, under the scene default root, I'm going to attach the skeletal mesh. You're going to have all these pieces, right? And then the naming is going to be underneath. Like this one says animation sequence. This is skeleton. You want to bring in the skeletal mesh. And I can just drag and drop it in here. And then for the groom, I want to bring it in too. It doesn't really work when I try to do that. So you can see I try to bring in the groom, it's not working. But what you can do is just select the character, and I want to attach the groom. I'm going to press add and just type groom. And I want to attach the groom icon. And right now there's nothing in it. Once you have that, you have your groom asset. And that is what I imported originally. Just drop it in here. And then we'll see this here. And just compile and save. Now, if I don't put the groom binding asset, when he runs, he's going to run away without his hair. The hair is just going to float in space. So the binding was to make it stick to the rig. And underneath the groom asset, you have binding asset. And you can just drop it in here. The binding asset will fail if the two objects are not on top of each other or not in the right place, right? So if your stuff is misaligned, it won't work. And I'll just hit save. And then what I'll do here, I'll take the blueprint, put them here. And then in the sequencer, I can just drag them in here. Okay. Let's put them in the shot. Now I want to attach the animation. I just have to hit the track button, go to animation, and the animation sequence will be here. And normally I usually start at the beginning of the frame. That way I don't have to move it around because the animation was offset. And he is kind of out of frame. Let's move him back here. And now you can see it's it's working. The one thing notice, like he's kind of pops off, and in your first frame will get messed up if your character is blending from this T pose into the actual animation, because it's going to do the motion blur based on that. So I usually will go over the animation in the sequencer. And if you right click over that and you go into properties, you have the pre-roll frames. So I can set this to, 3 frames and 3 at the end. So you can see I have 3 frames. I got these new icons here, like they look like tracks. That way, if I leave or you're hitting the end, it's still going to hold that frame and it won't pop to the stationary pose. And then your motion blur won't get messed up at the beginning and the end. So that's how this one works out. And again, this is the most convenient one. As far as like sticking on shaders, I can just go to my skeletal mesh and, you want to make sure that you have your shading group set up initially, which I didn't cover any of that because this is kind of more about hair. But if you just drop them in, you can see it just picks it up. Right, and then his hair, you can do the same thing. So if I just open up the hair asset or the groom asset, and you just look under materials, slots, there's nothing here. We can add a slot, and I can just attach the hair shader. And this is where it's kind of interesting. So I think that if we want hair, and there's a couple of things that we have going on. So we have characters with hair, and we also have a lot of depth of field. Or what's the correct term to say that, Miguel?
For what?
Where you have a lot of things out of focus. Would you say?
A shallow depth of field.
Okay, so we have shallow depth of field, right? Because they're like small guys. They're maybe like there's like Smurf size. So you have a lot of things blurring out, and you can see like the hair looks very messed up in Lumen. I don't think that it looks messed up all the time, right? Like if we were doing life size, the hair would have some depth of field issues, but like we're really pushing it. And if I render this in Path Tracer without the setting, and look, I didn't discover these things.
Someone brought a path tracer to us live on the stream.
Yeah. So I didn't like invent any of these things. It's just things that I looked up.
Yeah.
And if I turn on Path Tracer, the hair is like super messed up. Like it turns like I don't know if you can see it, Miguel.
I totally can see it. It looks like well, it looks like everything got defocused completely. That is not part of the silhouette of the head, so it almost blends into the rocks in the back. Like you could see the clear silhouette of the head.
Yeah, so you can see how it looks really bad. It's like really soft, and you see the skull, so it looks super bad. Let's see this question. I missed it. Did you turn on hair physics? No, because he's just gonna have like hair. I don't know. I don't think it really needs it.
It gets too crazy.
Smoky, yeah. I haven't played with it enough. Like I know some people get it to work nice. I don't think I really want it in the first place. So we're just like, cool. We just got hair. That's good enough. Anyway, so you can see you have like a lot of huge problems with that. That's really easy to fix. When I looked it up though, and I guess maybe I feel like, oh, I should bring this up because there was a lot of misinformation. So, initially when I first Googled how to fix this problem, some people were like, oh, you got to render in separate passes. You got to use kryptonite and you got to recomp all your layers to get the hair to work. And that is like a pain in the ass for us. And then I found some other information where all you have to do is under your post-process volume, under path tracing, you just have to check. Let me turn this off because it's getting really slow. Reference depth of field, and you just have to set it to true. And then if you turn on path tracing now, you can see I don't have that weird halo. It's noisy, but that's just because it's just rendering. But you can see that fixes the problem. So that was nice. And let me just save all. That's basically that. Maybe in a couple other things. We normally use let's come over here, HDRI backdrop a lot when we were lighting in our first short. And if you check out their website, Unreal's documentation, it says that the HDRI backdrop is not fully supported, right? So what you can do is you can use a skylight instead. And to use that like an HDRI, under source type is usually set to SLS capture scene. You just check it to specify new cube map, and then you just put it in. The one thing that will happen though, if I turn on path tracing like this, is you can see I'm not seeing the background. So let's say if you want to see the background while you're using path tracing, you want to enter a command called r.pathtracing.visible lights. I guess I can type it in the chat.
Of course you do. Of course you have to type some crazy command.
So that just makes the lights visible.
Yeah.
For path tracing. So now we have the, the backdrop. So, I mean, I don't think it's super hard when we were first starting out using this though.
It's not hard once you know that you even have to do that, but there's a point where we're like, oh, it can't do that. And then there's some of this stuff is very underdocumented.
Yeah. So there's, just all kinds of stuff, fun stuff to deal with.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. The next one, give me a second. Can you take over for a second while I dig up some files? Miguel?
Take over, like what? You want me to share my screen?
Well, just talk.
Yeah, okay. So the good thing is a lot of the HDRI stuff, most of this thing is going to be indoors. I think the majority of it. I think we have like maybe 1 or 2 shots that'll be outdoors. So I think that'll be fine. And we prefer indoor lighting anyway. We prefer like theatrical lighting over like a photoreal HDRI. So that's something that will work to our advantage while some of this stuff is finalized, like the HDRI stuff not being production ready yet or whatever. It wasn't even ready when we weren't using path tracing. The HDRI gave us some of the biggest issues we had on the Voice in the Hollow. Right, Tran?
Yeah.
like the whole popping of the light issue we would constantly have. Tran is busy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to dig up the files because I don't know where I put them, so I can't show.
Variables are like one of the businesses. Let's see what this says here. UE command variables are like one of the businesses that are really big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is. It's rough. I wish there was like just like a menu and you just like check, turn it on.
Yeah, like that they would already be listed, right?
Uh-huh. Because most people are going to want Nanite to work in Path Tracer, right? And you're also going to want to.
There should be a command to make it not work with Path Tracer.
Yeah,
to make it work.
You would think you want it on by default, or
Yeah.
like double-sided shadows on Nanite meshes where you get those ugly artifacts.
I want it to look terrible by default.
Yeah, it really like boggles the mind. I'm ready to go back though.
Okay, go for it.
So I dug up the files. Now let's say you need to attach your hair onto Alembic, and why would we need to do that? It's when something has to be adjusted on the rig for whatever reason, and that usually for us is, say, something like shot modeling, right? So let me just close this out. So instead of importing an FBX file, you would have to import an Alembic. And it, again, is much more steps. So let's just say I import this Alembic. Let me just dig through this.
I'm retopologizing.
They should have a massive bio website every single. I kind of agree. Like you can find stuff in their documentation, but you have to like read through a lot of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It should just be like command variables for idiots, and it should just be.
Well, I have a document I make for myself, and it's depending on the subject. It looks like this, and because I can't remember all this stuff, I just need it because I can't memorize it. I just get confused. There's too many different things, or I'll be off in some detail. Okay, so here, this is an Alembic file, and it has the animation in it. And let's say what I had to do was shot correct it because something, needs to be fixed. Like his shoulder wasn't deforming well, or the facial expression looked messed up. There's so many reasons why you would have to shot model something. So in this case, to bring in the cache, let's say if I just did this, let me create a new folder in here, and I'll just call this ABC, which is for Alembic. And let's say I bring in that Alembic here, just the body. I'm going to set this to geometry cache because this will work if it's set to geometry cache. Hold on. And let's see, skipped empty frames. That's really important. It's probably not a big deal because my frame is starting at frame 0.
Yeah, explain what that does.
Okay, so if your animation starts at 0, so it says from 0 and ends at 25, this is not a big deal if you don't check it on. But sometimes our animation sequences are going from one shot to another shot, and we're breaking up our animation. So let's say our animation is 1,000 frames, but we don't want to bring in the whole entire 1,000 frames. So you might break up the first one, frame 0 to 200, and then the next shot is from 200 to 400. If you don't check skip empty frames, and let's say your frame is 200 to
starting
400.
at 200.
Yeah, starting at 200 and then goes to 400, it's going to bring in all those empty first 200 frames.
But they're not empty. I mean, they're empty for you, but in terms of Unreal, it is filling up the RAM with 200 worthless frames of geometry.
Yeah. So Alembic's caches, they have size limits, in Unreal. They're like around 2 gigabytes.
Like 2.2,
Yes.
2.3.
So we have to break up our stuff because the Alembic file size would be too large for Unreal. So that's just what we have to do. And if you don't skip the empty frames, it's going to bring them all in. The second thing you don't want to do is flatten tracks. So apparently this like flattens all your materials together, which is not good. And then our setting here, this one always changes every time I open this up. Let's see. I think this is fine. No, this is fine for the character. And I won't let it find materials. If you have materials set up, I don't have that set up very well. So I'm just going to import. Okay, my rotation was messed up. So if I look at him, I can tell he's like rotated 90 degrees. Give me 1 second. Let's bring him back here. -1, rotation 90 on X. Let me see if I can pull up the pen, because I can just write them out on the screen. My computer is running slow right now.
I think that's going to change, Sergi. I think they do care a lot. I just think, you know, one is bringing in billions of dollars, and the other one, the film stuff, is all free. You got to keep that in mind. So when they're like, oh, they don't care so much about film guys, it's not that they don't care. It's just I think the majority of the resources have been put onto the thing that makes Unreal what they are, right? But I think they know that the film stuff is what gets them more attention. So they do care about the film stuff, but I think the priority just has to be the paying customers.
Okay, hold on.
But I know they really care about the film stuff in terms of the, you know, the Unreal Fellowship. They put a lot of money into all of that stuff. The mega grants. So they definitely care.
I don't know why it's not coming in right. I did rotate this.
What is not coming in right? The Alembic?
No, it is. It's just the icon's messed up. Okay. All right. So let me just save. And let's say I put this guy in here. He doesn't have his materials. That's fine. Now, if I grab this, let's hide this person. And let me just duplicate the groom right here. So if I try to bind these two together, it's not going to work. And then I can't attach the hair, right? So you can see, and the reason is because they're not on top of each other. If I go create binding, let's name this like something easy to find. Let's call it Mayo Bad. Let's create the binding here. Let's type Mayo Bad. Also, let's change this to geometry cache, because that's what it is. It's not a skeletal mesh. And I try to bind it to that one. You can see I have the error message down here, which is failed. I tried to pull up the pen, but it's making everything crash. Sorry. So the one extra step that you have to do, which is kind of a pain, is you have to bring your cache in here, bring it to your first frame, and then you need to import your hair back on top. So I can select the mesh, import collection. And this is, you know, why I don't want to do this a lot. Because again, there's all these extra steps.
You mean like do this a lot as in
Alembic.
I see.
Because this will take a very long time. I'm going to import my hair collection. This is a .xgen file that saves out with the Maya file, and I'll use the last version. and I'll import this, create a third collection. And sometimes, hold on. Today I'm not sharp. Sorry, everyone.
We've been staying up super late lately, so that's why.
Yeah. So my brain is like, blah.
Our brain is usually like that to begin with, so when we're tired, it gets really problematic.
Yeah, so I'm making these mistakes. I guess this was a good mistake. So I tried to bring it in and it failed. And the reason why it failed was because the naming of my alembic has to be the same as what I created originally. So it was body geo, like that. If your name is not the same as what you created your groom with and you import it, but I think that's kind of a standard rule, it won't import, correct? Let's just do that again.
Yeah.
Let me try this again.
So what is going on? It's just having a hard time loading in.
No, I just didn't name it correctly. Okay, so the hair came in. I have 2 of them. And then I have to repeat that entire process that I just showed earlier. So now I would have to go here, convert this to interactive groom. And I would have these 2 here at frame 0, and they are attached all the way through on the animation. I don't need the whole animation. I just need the first frame. And then if I come over here, I'm going to export them as a cache at frame 0, 0. And let me just put it in a spot. Let's call it Mayo hair. Alembic. So I know what that is. Okay. Now, then I have to do, what I have to do is, I'm going to delete this one that doesn't work. And jump over into my directory. I think the other thing is I get turned around while I'm doing this, digging through my files. And I'll bring in the hair cache I just exported. I believe these settings are correct. I'm always confused by the settings.
Sorry for the dumb question, but will there be any recordings of the stream? We leave all of them on our YouTube.
Yeah, so you can see them again.
Yeah.
Now, if I bring them in, you can see that hair cache is right on top of him. Let's save all.
That looks good.
And now if I create the binding, I have to set this to geometry cache because I brought the alembic in this geometry cache. When you import the alembic, you have the option to set it to skeletal mesh. It won't work. And I'll show you why. Okay. But let's bring them in here as Mayo bad because that's what the file is called. And now you can see it created the binding. Right. So, and this is the really important one because without it, the hair, he will just run away without the hair. Then you can do the same thing, create a blueprint class. I'll do it again. Maybe I'll explain this better this time. Let's call this Mayo bad BP. So I'm going to throw this all away. And let's open up the blueprint. I can drop the geometry cache in here. And again, if I try to drag the groom, it won't work. So I have to manually do it. Just type groom. And now he has his groom in here. And I'll stick the groom asset over here. So I have my groom selected and then the groom asset connected. Just like here, when you drop it in, it's connecting geometry cache for you. We're just doing it manually. Let's hit compile and let's hit save. And then what you want to use is the blueprint, right? So I just dragged these in here, but that's not the blueprint. Now, I don't have the binding connected. So if I create a sequence, I'm just going to steal these because they have cameras. Hold on. I did something bad because my computer is running kind of weird. Here we are. Okay. And that's my blueprint here. Let me jump out of the sequencer. So I have this on my other screen. Let's put him over here. Then he'll be in focus. Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to drag the blueprint in here. And there's no animation track. So what you have to do, let's set this to the front. You have to just load geometry cache. And then here we have the animation. And again, he runs away without his hair, without the binding. Just so you can see if you're curious. But here we were able to create the binding because they were on top of each other. So you can go back to your blueprint, go to your groom. Under the groom asset, just pop in the binding asset. Let's compile and save. Now, once I do that, he should run with his hair. Now, if you really wanted to, you could, I know that you can turn on physics. You know, I've played with this, probably not enough. Like I haven't looked into it deep, but it looks really funny. So if you open up the groom asset and you go to the physics tab, you can enable simulation, which is going to take a second. Let's see what some of the comments are. Oh, this is important stream in terms of how to use Xgen for animation. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Oh, I see Miguel, you already answered those.
Yeah, I already answered all those.
My brain was not listening because it was like, where are all these files? And I forgot it takes a while to actually deal with that.
To compile it.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's almost done. Okay. Let's see. And now let's play. I don't know. I think I'm fine with him not having that hair. The hair physics.
Oh, the hair physics.
Yeah, it's like really weird.
The problem with the hair physics is you might get it to work really well on one shot, and then on the next shot, it looks terrible, and then on the other shot, and we just want to keep that. We're so understaffed that we just have to keep this simple.
Yeah. It's not something I want to fiddle in. With too many steps, it's going to mean that it's going to take a lot longer for me to get this done. So I really want to simplify my steps. That's what I keep saying. So I just want to turn off the groom. And I'd rather just do this. So yeah. Anyway, the extra step is dealing with the alembic and caching it out. So the big thing with, if you use an alembic for your character, right, versus using a rig, for every animation, you need to export a unique hair asset because it has to be in that position above the animation. And that's a big downside to that. So if you have this character with unique animation in 100 shots, you're going to need 100 alembic assets for the hair. And that adds up. So it adds up in size and it adds up in exporting it, right?
And importing it.
Yes. And if you use the rig technique, you don't have to have that. You just need one asset for every animation. for the hairs, right? You just need the hair one time and the rig, and then that's it. So your file sizes, you know, and just the amount of handling. That's why I went crazy on the last. I got really stressed out on the last short we were finishing because I had to bring in Olympics for everything, and it made our project really huge. It was like a terabyte, and it was just so slow.
Yeah, at the end, it just was very painful.
It was super painful, and that's kind of like that there. Let me just open up this map here. And let's open up this sequence. And let's just jump in here. Oh, he's in here because I used this map. I'm getting rid of him. Okay, cool. Let me make sure he's gone. Okay, so for this one here, this one is just a rig. And as far as the settings or rendering, one, again, make sure you have reference depth of field on. I know in path tracing, you can get all these settings in here. But if you go to render it, right, through your movie render queue, your settings are going to be controlled through here, right? So all your settings need to be set up again. And there's a lot of information for this. So I don't think, I think that you can find this anywhere. Let me just create a folder. Let's set the path. And if you just hit render, it's not going to render path tracer. So what you want to do is you want to load path tracer and get rid of the other one, deferred rendering. And again, if I just hit render, it'll probably render really fast, but the quality would be super bad. So and it will render very fast. It won't crash my computer because it will be very, very terrible quality. Yeah, it rendered like already.
But this is oh, there we go. So the hair does pop in.
Yeah.
It's funny how it looks.
It looks very painterly, which is kind of neat. But it looks like it's been blurred out with some kind of strange filter. It's almost done. I don't know if you can tell, but it looks like this. Like, how would you describe this?
The hair?
No, just the render quality.
It just feels tactile.
You see how noisy it is?
But that's while it's loading, right?
No, this is if you don't set up your settings.
Yeah. So when you say describe it, you mean describe the blurriness of it?
Yeah, you see how like that noise?
Yeah.
Like, it's like dancing everywhere.
Yeah, well, what it's doing is it's just really noisy, and there's probably like some sort of denoiser on top of it. Makes it feel that's what Netbug says. It feels denoised.
Yeah. So
that's exactly what it is.
And how fast does this render? It renders incredibly fast. It takes a minute or 30 seconds to render the whole sequence, but the whole sequence looks really terrible. So in order to improve that, you need to add anti-aliasing, and your spatial and your temporal count, sample count will work that out. Now, I did see a Foucher video, and he says he starts at 16:16, but that was still really bad quality for me. So what I ended up going for was 32 spatial and 64 temporal count. The other important thing is you want to override anti-aliasing. Otherwise, you get this message. Because you put values there and it's not going to do anything. So I hit accept, right? The other thing that is pretty big is I have to check reference motion blur. So I played around with a lot of different settings. And even when I started upping the anti-aliasing, of course, that increases your render time. The motion blur looked really weird. And I never really noticed a problem with it when we were using Lumen, but it was like making it like kind of really blobby. a little bit, like kind of like the way this feels.
Denoised.
Denoised, yeah, it felt denoised. So in order to get rid of that, under path tracers, I check on reference motion blur. That does increase the render time, but it does not take long to render in the first place, right? And Lumen was real time for us on the last project, but it wasn't like the shot was spit out in like zero amount of time. You still had some kind of rendering time, ultimately, anyway, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, okay, you know, as long as you keep it down. And that was it. So it's pretty simple. Big thing for me is turning that on, reference motion blur. And then we'll probably mess with our spatial sample count and temporal sample count, depending on the shot, I would assume. And yeah, pretty simple so far. And it's working out. I don't know if there's any questions. Let's see. Apology if this asked already. What are the specs of the machine you use for work, especially GPU? I have the NVIDIA 3090. So, which I think has 24.
Does it have 20? I believe
Yeah,
so.
24 VRAM. This character strangely reminds me of Pennywise.
I could see that a little bit. It's because of the shape of the corners going down.
Well, he's kind of creepy, I guess.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
mean, that's what the short is called. There's something wrong with Mayo.
yeah.
He is Mayo. There's something clearly wrong with him.
His hair looks really terrible like this. There were some solutions that I tried to look into. Like, for example, we decided to keep it lumen, and it didn't really fix the hair problem. Again, if these characters, if our world wasn't so small, meaning these guys are like not Smurf size, I think you could do lumen with hair, like everyone else has done it, right?
Which, I mean, you got it to work.
With Path Tracer, but I couldn't get it to work with lumen. I don't know if anyone has a solution for that or a trick that fixes the hair issue. Like here, you know, like the hair looks very weird.
Yeah, it looks gross.
Yeah. It looks really, really bad. It looks like
Well, the shader looks blown out for starters.
Well, the shader right now is all shaded just for Path Tracer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am very careful about this, about going with values that are too bright, which is not anything new in our workflow. So if you check out the documentation, they do say avoid like really white textures, right? So for example, supposedly if you render Path Tracer exterior shot, it renders faster than a white room because there's so much bounce in a white room. And white could be something that affects it, makes it take longer or makes it noisier. So like none of my textures are ever at 1, which is white. Like white is in our world like 0.75 or something like that instead of 1.0.
Do you ever run into VRAM filling up? We haven't had that issue. Even in the voice and the hollow, I'm sure on this one we're going to be pushing it in all fronts even more. So ask us later. But
Yeah.
we didn't have that issue, and I just bought the 4090, and Tran is probably going to get the 4090 soon. So
Yeah, I guess if
yeah.
we wanted something really crazy, it would be the A6000 because that's like 48.
That's like a
VRAM.
$5,000 graphics card.
Yeah, just by itself, it's a lot of money. Let's see what you said here. For one of my UE shorts, the opening shot had massive landscape, high poly buildings, and a metahuman close to avoid flickers and bump up to samples. Even 24 gigabytes kept filling up. Well, I don't know if our scene was ever as heavy as yours. So that could be one thing. And were you using Path Tracer or were you using Lumen? It sounds like you were using Path Tracer. So we will probably encounter some kind of thing. I'm sure.
100%.
Oh, you were using Lumen. Well, I had all kinds of rendering problems with Lumen all the time. Most of the time it was pretty good, but sometimes some shots just would never render, or sometimes it would have artifacts, like streaks, and I didn't know why, or the lighting would break, right? So like I would render it and the lighting looked completely different than what it did in my viewport. And that happened to like a few sequences. And I never understood why it was doing that. I kind of know, maybe, but I, wasn't going to fix it. Yeah, because the way we're lighting was just try to get it look good, which means we weren't technically lighting it like in a shot that was stable. We were pushing the lights to do things that it probably wasn't supposed to do. So,
Yeah.
anything you want to add?
Not really. I mean, I would show you guys what I'm working on, but it's just the most uninteresting thing on the planet. I'm just retopologizing spikes. It's so brutally horrific. And
just show it.
I mean, I could show it, but good Lord, is it?
Show your pain.
Yeah. So this is all I'm doing. That's why I'm so quiet. It's just complete brain dead. There's a lot of, it's reached the point where it's not even like kind of fun anymore, because there's a certain part where it's therapeutic, right? I'm way past that point right now. Just like, oh, I hate this crap.
Yeah, because it has a lot of spikes.
A lot of spikes.
And that's where, and it's also getting slow.
It's getting slow. It's a disaster.
It's not fun.
It's not fun.
But that's the life of it, of doing this type of stuff.
Yeah, so that's why I've been quiet. Like I've been doing, well, obviously we both do that, but on this project, I jumped in just now on the 3D stuff. Tran has been doing most of it because I was finishing up the script. But now doing this as the first thing is just the worst. It's like, oh crap! I'd rather be a writer.
Usually when I have so many spikes, I start with them first. That's probably a good tip.
Yeah, just get the pain out of the way.
Yeah, I can see that. Here, back to like your thing. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Well, in our first short, we didn't have very much subsurface scattering. We kept that like really, really low. So all of our shaders were just like really
very basic,
very, very basic, with maybe some metallic stuff, but very little SSS.
I also don't know how much metahumans. Maybe metahumans are very heavy.
They could be very heavy.
Because we try to avoid metahumans.
But metahumans would have definitely more complex shading, right? Like they have the hair shader.
A really complex shader.
And then they have skin shading. I would say, like when I'm doing with the path tracer, hair takes longer to render. And so this is the only character that's going to have hair. Everyone else is bald. So, and no one else gets to have hair because we don't want to deal with that. So we just try to make compromises so that we can get it done.
Yeah, Mayo's the only one that gets it because he's the princess of the film, essentially.
Yeah, I think that your scene definitely had more complex materials, and we just didn't deal with those issues on our last one because of that. This one, I think we're expecting more problems because we wanted to use cloth, and we wanted some hair, so that is already more complicated than last one. But this is what we wanted to do. So yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a tool like Z-Remesher to do this job?
You're looking at it. It's called iRemesh it.
Well, you tried to look at.
We tried. The problem is it does a pretty good job until it gets to the spikes, and then the spikes it just doesn't do a good job at all. So a big portion of the body in particular, I did do the auto remesher from this program called Quad Remesher that is incredible, but the spikes it does not do the spikes. And the spikes are the big giveaway because we can't use displacements, so they just have to have all the volume in there. So we just have to go in there, and as you can see, this character is nothing if not a bazillion heavy metal spikes everywhere.
Yeah.
So
And we can't.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't seem like. Whereas I know in the past, like in Unreal version 4, you could smooth your mesh in the material. And it doesn't seem like you can do that anymore. So from as far as I understand, you can't smooth your mesh.
With Lumen.
Yeah. So then our model has to come in with really nice silhouettes. So it doesn't look gamey. And there's nothing wrong with a game, a game looking like a game. Like games look beautiful. But we don't want it to look like it's in a video game.
Yeah. This one we really want a tactile, again, Jim Henson feel to it.
Yeah. So path tracers is very important for us. And everyone's going to be bald. The only thing that's going to have hair is Mayo and the moths. But I think the moths will not have dense hair. They'll just be like kind of scraggly.
Yeah.
Which I think will not hit the render times so bad.
Yeah.
I really thought about ways to optimize Mayo's hair, which is just to thicken the strands and reduce the density.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, anybody that is going to be in France, we are gonna be doing a presentation at Annecy this year, which is pretty cool. They asked us to go there and do a talk on The Voice in the Hollow, which was our previous film. So we're pretty excited about that. Annecy is a big deal. And we're going to be at SIGGRAPH in the Electronic Theater, which is also pretty awesome. And another, big honor to be at SIGGRAPH amongst people much more talented than us.
I never feel smart enough, I will say.
Oh yeah, we're definitely not SIGGRAPH smart.
No. We get by somehow.
We get stuff done, but we definitely do it the most brute force method ever.
Which is why we simplify, because we can't. I'm not going to write some magic script that does all these things for me. So some comments. Great model, by the way. Thank you. This was, I'm afraid to say his name because I think I say it wrong, but it's Sedan.
Vague Sedan.
Vague Sedan. But I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he's amazing. So you decide to render a path tracer. Yes. It looks so much better,
Yeah, once we saw it, there was no going back. We were like, ah, crap.
Well, it's one of those things like, I don't think I can get Lumen to look that good. And if I were to try to get it to look that good, it would take a long time in lighting, right? So I'd have to put so many fake lights and spend more hours doing it. Whereas a path tracer, I think our lighting is going to be very simple. It will probably just be like...
It's kind of how we light with V-Ray.
Yeah, it'll be some kind of like H-dry maybe, and like a key light or something like that. So like just a couple lights. And then that will make it faster and it looks pretty good.
Yeah. So this guy, we just got to get this damn moth done because I got to get him into rigging. I think that this project, the moment we see these little guys getting chased by the moths is going to be super important to us.
Yeah.
Because right now, we've only seen these little cute guys, but I think this whole project, the cool thing about this project is going to be these little dudes that are super, super adorable being chased by characters that don't look like what I was using as an example yesterday. I was having a talk with someone. I'm like, if you look at Bug's Life, they're getting chased by these grasshoppers, but they kind of feel like Hopper looks like he belongs in that same world as the little ant guy. We want this to look like these little characters belong in a Jim Henson movie, and then these monsters look like they're from an A24 evil freaking horror film. Like it busted into the wrong movie, and it's these little tiny cute guys getting chased by these horrific demons that want to rip them into pieces and eat them. That's what's going to be so cool about that, because you've seen Hopper do it, but he just kind of bullies them around, and then acts like he's about to stomp on their head, but he doesn't really do it. We're gonna do that. We're gonna rip heads off.
Yeah. There's a question: Does Path Tracer work the same in Marmoset? I don't know because I don't use Marmoset. And then Solus said, "I feel guilty for trying Path Tracer last time." Were you the one who asked us to do it? I think we would have ended up
Yeah, I think it was.
at that solution anyway, because I would have brought the hair in and been like, "What's up with this hair? It looks really, really bad."
Yeah, but it definitely was someone on the stream. I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely someone on the stream. Like if
we can't go back now.
I go back here and you take a look, maybe I can just maximize that. Like the hair, can you see how bad the hair looks, Miguel? On your,
Of course.
yeah, it looks.
It looks harsh.
It looks really well. It looks like a poly card, right? So it looks like a piece of geometry and I textured some kind of crappy hair texture.
But there's got to be a way around that. There's no way. Like the wet a meerkat looks pretty good, and they were not using Path Tracer for that.
No, but I don't know what they did. But it doesn't look as bad. Like if you look here, I don't know how much shallow depth of field they had either, though.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like a shallow depth of field issue. That looks.
But you see,
that
like
just looks like a Maya viewport render.
No, but if I come back in here, it doesn't look so bad. You see, and then when I get it into the camera with the depth of field, I don't know what's really happening.
There's got to be a solution for that. If it works with Path Tracer, there's got to be a way to do it with Lumen.
I haven't looked enough into that. I tried one solution, and it did not work. So we'll see if we end up doing some shots in Lumen. We'll have to figure out how to get rid of that. Oh, so you confirmed it was you. Okay. Let's see. Have you got a solution for nanite meshes? Are you guys going to turn off nanite? No, we're definitely using nanite. The nanite, you just need the command r.ray tracing .nanite .mode, and you just turn it on to 1. And then when you go into nanite or path tracing, it doesn't get all blurred out. So the first time we did that, we saw that change. But that was pretty easy to find the solution for. It's actually on their Unreal's documentation on their page.
We have to try 5.2?
Yes. So the next thing for us is to jump into that. I actually thought about it really long and hard. And I've been contemplating at night every evening whether we should do it.
5.2?
Yeah, because it's in preview, right? And
we've done that before.
We already went through that. So when we started the last project, we were preview version 5, and a lot of stuff wasn't ready. And they even tell you don't use it. They even say don't use it for production.
And we're door.
Yeah, we're jump in. So it's not anything with Unreal. It was just us doing it. The reason why we decided to do it was because of nanite, and that was the huge reason why we did it anyway.
Lumen more than nanite. I guess a little bit of both.
I think you can get Lumen in 4, right?
No, I think that was the big thing about 5.
But definitely nanite.
I think you could do nanite in
No, I don't think you can do nanite.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Anyway,
right.
I'm not sure, but that was a huge thing. And then we had all kinds of instability all the time. Some things were broken. And then when we would update, our lighting would break. So we end up relighting our shots every single time.
And the thing is, we don't know it enough to really troubleshoot
why
big issues.
Why did that break? Why did that not work?
I mean, the good thing is not a lot of people know it, period, because 5 had just come out. So
yeah, so it was tough. So for me, I don't want to upgrade into 5.2, and it's unstable. And then maybe I don't even realize that it's unstable. because I'm new to it, right? And I'm just like doing some weird workflow just because to get something to work. And then once they fix it, that weird workflow that I tried to use to make it work doesn't work anymore. So then you're remaking all your scenes all the time.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to do it because those new substrate materials look really incredible.
Yeah.
And we need,
go ahead.
yeah, like I don't know if everyone's seen that demo with like the opal. I'm sure everyone has seen it, right? Let's pull it up.
You can open it up.
Well, I don't know how it would stream through a stream.
Try it and see.
I'm going to minimize this guy because it's slow. And I'm streaming. Let's see. Trying to dig it up. I'm not getting anything right today. So, yeah, no, I got ads and everything like that. And I don't want to play it during the stream. Let's see if I can fast forward. This part right here. So like this material like blows me away. It's not the fact that it has like an opal look, but it's like this parallax. Like you really feel like, you know, when
layers.
When they said layers, it's layers. Like my concept of layers is like mixing a dirt material with metal or something like that, or like you're just mixing two different shaders. That's my past experience. Whereas like here, you're really
depth.
It really feels like there's this depth inside of it.
Yeah, that is really awesome.
And maybe there's ways to do this, and I'm just ignorant, but I've never seen something like this.
And the thing is, our little guys, so the way our characters work is they're woven in a cocoon by the queen, but then there's a crystal placed inside the cocoon, and that's like their soul. Every single one of these little guys has a crystal. So crystals play a huge part of our short, and that kind of shader would look really amazing.
I don't know if they're using subsurface scattering. I don't think so in this. I think you don't need to. And this is a way to really add something to your environment and keeping it cheap to render. For me, what I notice is the hair takes the longest to render, and then SSS, and then standard, right? So like if we were just doing path tracer and we were just throwing in a bunch of like Megascan nanite meshes, and that's all we had, I would think that actually renders really fast. And so I'm really careful about adding things with like SSS and more hair because we want to keep things really optimized. And if we could get something like this where it feels really nice in our world, I just think it would be so cool. And again, when I saw this, I was like, oh, you guys doing layers. And I'm like, oh my God, that's really layered. It was just mind blowing for me. Yeah. So it's a comment. That's huge. That wasn't possible before. Yeah, it wasn't possible, but I've not really seen this kind of look anywhere before.
He's talking about the nanite with the rocks.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You're behind a little bit.
I am behind. So, yeah.
Yeah, guys, so that's it for this week. Yeah, let us know unless anybody has any questions before we go. And for those that are going to SIGGRAPH, we'll be there. So come up and say hi to us if you guys go. Annecy in France, same thing. It's going to be pretty cool. And then Seattle, film festival on the 20th. So in 2 weeks, I'll be there. Tran won't be there, but Tran will be at SIGGRAPH and Annecy as well. You're giving 2 talks at Annecy.
2 talks?
Yeah. The one with me, and then you're doing one alone.
I didn't know I was doing one by myself.
Yeah.
Are you doing one by yourself?
No.
So you're only doing 1 talk? I have to do 2?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Okay. I didn't know that. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I got to prepare for that type of stuff.
All right, guys. So you guys are awesome. Sorry that we're half asleep today.
Yeah.
It's because we are half asleep.
Yeah, I'm super tired.
Hopefully you guys like our little guy Mayo, Caught, and yeah, Tran is also working. You don't want to show the little warrior guy at all? Too early?
I'll show him. He's
Here, I'll put this guy in while you open up your stuff. So you can see all these holes represent the spikes that I have left. Good Lord. Help me. This thing sucks.
I think the big thing is how slow it's running.
Yeah, it goes really slow. I mean, I could cut it up, but it's still slow. So I could just come over here. Let's see if that goes all the way through. I could detach that. I could detach.
All right, I have him.
All right.
Want me to show?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so this is the last main character.
He looks weird because he doesn't have his clothing yet.
He's just naked.
But
and
yeah,
he's got Mayo's body, so
so he's gonna be missing an arm, and
Yeah.
he is
just
he
keep
is
it
a
one.
warrior that got his arm ripped off by the moths. So he's training Caught to be a mage, but yeah, he's like an old wounded kind of dude.
Yeah, he's grumpy.
Yeah, we want to get a really awesome voice for this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super grumpy. He's gonna be cool.
I mean, hopefully when you look at the characters and their faces, they kind of feel like who they are. Like if Mayo looks a little crazy, it's because he kind of is. He's his own person.
Mayo's definitely crazy.
Caught is timid, and the professor is super grumpy.
So this guy is a little bit insane. This guy is very shy and always filled with anxiety. And then you can see Mayo again. He's just insane. Oh yeah, that's literally the poster right there. There's something wrong with Mayo. So
yeah.
But yeah, so then our wait, what happened to the general? Let's pull him back up. There you go.
And that's our professor.
Yeah, our professor, not the general. Same thing, I guess. But yeah. And his name. Let me see. I forget his name.
You forget his name.
Cuso, Professor Cuso. Yeah, because the reason why I forget is because we've changed this name in the script a bunch of different times. So I'm like, we called him Ton at a certain point. We called him, what was the other one? Kato. So we're gonna call him Cuso, which is one of the samurais from Seven Samurai. So yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.
Later. Let me put this thing. If you want to follow our work, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Half Empty Studios. That's where we usually post stuff earlier. Yeah, thanks to Gnomon. Thanks to all our sponsors, Lenovo and AMD. Gnomon. And yeah, thank you guys. Let me kick this off.
We sound like zombies.
Yeah, we're total zombies.
Bye.
Later, guys.
Sorry, guys. Bye.